So after the sun's gotten too high to keep photographing, there's other things you can do. Detail shots. Doing detail shots of specific objects, like those cool little waterfalls coming off that beaver pond. Individual shots of them, or I just did a panoramic. I turned the camera vertical and compose and focus, and then shoot from left to right. I typically do left to right, and then you'll stitch them together later in Lightroom, Photoshop, to make a panoramic of whatever ratio you want. I was shooting for a 3:1 ratio on this. The trick with doing panoramics of objects like this is making sure the focus stays consistent and the exposure stays consistent. Sometimes you want to try to get in a spot where everything is virtually on the same focal plane. And I stop with waterfalls. I always shoot at f/22 to help get a longer exposure. f/22 will help create a better depth of field, but you want to make sure your focus is consistent across too if things are changing. You can run into issues doing that, but if you're stopped down to where your depth of field is very, very deep, focusing won't be that big of a deal. Isn't that just cool? So, don't forget the detail shots when you're done doing the big overall landscape. There's all sorts of neat stuff you can photograph. Another thing what a lot of people like to get good shots of: skunk cabbage. I have yet to get a really good creative shot of it. You see there's a slight wind blowing, so doing a long exposure is not going to work. Unless you use a shallow, a more shallow depth of field, a bigger, wider f-stop. But I've seen some great stuff people have done of skunk cabbage. So at least that's what I call that stuff. Anyway, so check this out. This is... See, the light is still up there on the peaks, but it's moving down. It's gone way past the time to stop photographing. There's lots of other fun stuff. There was a heron out there. I spooked him when I went out on this beaver pond over there, and spooked him, and he flew over here, and he was preening himself. I don't know if you can see that little, it's hard to tell, but there's a right behind that log right there, there is a old beaver lodge, and he was standing on top of that preening himself. So I got a shot of him. He was a little far away from my 200. I put my 70 to 200 on for this stuff. So anyway, there you go.